Welcome back to part 6, the concluding video in our series on the prequel and current characters from A Song of Ice and Fire. This video explores the costumes and physical descriptions of the Song of Ice and Fire characters different in the show. If you missed any of the previous videos in the series, I will leave it in the description below. To stir your imagination, we have sought out some stunning concept illustrations, fan art, and cosplays. You will find links to over 100 artist pages in the pinned comment below. Co-producers Tatiana Melendez and Vanessa Amnesty have been instrumental in bringing this entire 6-part series to light. You can read their bios and learn more about them in the description below. The information in this video comes from a variety of sources, including Elio and Linda's The World of Ice and Fire, The Untold History of Westeros, and the Game of Thrones, which throughout the video I will refer to as the World Book. And we have also explored the descriptions in the books. While we strive for accuracy, we may occasionally get something wrong, and as a reminder, you don't have to be a book reader to enjoy the ride. Now let's get started. Roose Bolton. Roose Bolton is the Lord of the Dreadfort and head of House Bolton. In the show, Roose Bolton is portrayed by actor Michael McElhatton. Roose is described in great detail in both A Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords. It says that he has an unremarkable body, neither plump, thin, nor muscular. He has pasty skin and a pallid chest, which is soft and hairless. Roose has short, strong fingers. Though mild-mannered, Roose is remorseless and implacable. Roose tells Arya, who has taken to calling herself Nan in A Clash of Kings, that frequent leechings are the secret of a long life. A man must purge himself of bad blood, and therefore he frequently has himself leeched, which has led to some calling him the Leech Lord. Roose has a plain face, beardless and ordinary, with his only noticeable feature being his strange eyes, paler than stone and darker than milk, like 2 white moons. The color is sometimes called ghost gray. His eyes are paler than those of his son Ramsay. Roose often wears black ringmail and a red-spotted pale pink cloak trimmed with white fur. In A Dance with Dragons, it describes Roose wearing a suit of dark gray plate armor over a quilted tunic of blood-red leather. Its rondels are shaped like human heads whose mouths are open in agony. His helmet has streamers of red silk which flutter in the wind. Usually worn with it is a pink woolen cloak embroidered with droplets of blood. Roose also wields a sword and dagger. Three-Eyed Crow. The Three-Eyed Crow was the last Green Seer, a human living among the last of the children of the forest beyond the wall. The Three-Eyed Crow, named the Three-Eyed Raven in the show, is portrayed in Season 6 by the late great actor Max von Sydow. In A Dance with Dragons, the Three-Eyed Crow is described as a pale skeletal man in rotted black clothing in a weirwood throne of tangled roots. The Three-Eyed Crow's skin is white, aside from a red blotch on his neck and cheek. Brynden Rivers, as he was once known, has fine white hair long enough to reach the earthen floor. He is missing one eye while the other is red. Weirwood roots surround the man and grow through his body, including his leg and his empty eye socket. His voice is slow and dry, as if he had forgotten how to speak. Leaf tells Bran that most of him has gone into the tree. He has lived beyond his mortal span, and yet he lingers. For us, for you, for the realms of men. Only a little strength remains in his flesh. He has 1,000 eyes in one, and there is much to watch. One day you will know. Tywin Lannister. Tywin Lannister is Lord of Casterly Rock and the head of House Lannister, and one of the most powerful lords in Westeros. He is also the father of Queen Cersei, Sir Jaime of the Kingsguard, and Tyrion. In the show, Tywin Lannister is portrayed by Charles Dance. According to the World Book, Tywin is described as a tall, slender, broad-shouldered man in his 50s, and like many of the characters, he is aged up in the show. His arms are thin but muscled. According to the book series, Tywin has kept his head shaved ever since his golden hair started going bald, but he grows out bushy golden side whiskers or long sideburns. Tywin has pale green eyes flecked with gold. According to A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings, Tywin's steel plate armor is enameled in deep crimson and highlighted with gold, taken from the House Lannister coat of arms, and its rondels are golden sunbursts. In plate armor, a rondel is a circular piece of metal used for protection to cover vulnerable points, such as the armpit. Strangely, I don't actually recall seeing any rondels in the HBO show at all. Tywin's heavy cloth of gold greatcloak is clasped with gold miniature lionesses, and his great helm is decorated with a roaring lion with ruby eyes. Tywin also owns a thick ermine cloak, a fur that is never used in the show. As I've mentioned in other videos, ermine is a type of heraldry and was the status quo fur for royalty and the most sought-after fur for court presentations and official portraiture. Tywin's long sword has a gold pommel. Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion Lannister is a member of House Lannister and is the third and youngest child of Lord Tywin Lannister and the late Lady Joanna Lannister. He is a dwarf. Because of this, he is sometimes called the Imp and the Half-Man. In the show, Tyrion Lannister is portrayed by Peter Dinklage. Writer Kim Renfro wrote in a Business Insider piece back in 2015 that Peter Dinklage has succeeded in making Tyrion Lannister one of the most popular characters on HBO's Game of Thrones. But given Dinklage's Hollywood looks, those who only watch the show may not realize how unattractive Tyrion was described in George R.R. Martin's original book series. Jon Snow's thoughts of Tyrion Lannister in A Game of Thrones are: the youngest of Lord Tywin's brood, and by far the ugliest. All that the gods had given to Cersei and Jaime, they had denied Tyrion. He was a dwarf, half his brother's height, struggling to keep pace on stunted legs. His head was too large for his body, with a brute squashed-in face beneath a swollen shelf of brow. One green eye and one black one peered out from under a lank fall of hair so blonde it seemed white. But Tyrion has stated that what he lacks in size and strength, he makes up for in mental acuity. Tyrion Lannister's personal sigil is of a golden hand in a circle of golden lions on red. We see House Lannister's sigil colors of gold and crimson red, along with that of Tyrion's personal sigil, reflected in most of the costumes illustrated in both the concept art and fan art. In the books, Tyrion Lannister wears a gold necklace made of interlocking hands linked into a chain. And in A Clash of Kings, Tyrion grows a beard of blonde and black hair. During the Battle of Blackwater, Sir Mandon Moore of the Kingsguard turns on Tyrion and tries to kill him, slicing off his nose, but Tyrion is saved by his squire Podrick Payne. Tyrion is left with a grisly facial scar. He tells Sansa Stark in A Storm of Swords, "I am malformed, scarred, and small, but abed when the candles are blown out, I am made no worse than other men." Jeyne Westerling. Jeyne Westerling is the eldest daughter of Lord Gawain Westerling and Lady Sybil Spicer. In the show, the Jeyne Westerling character is replaced by Talissa Maegir of Volantis, played by actor Una Chaplin. The coat of arms of House Westerling are 6 white seashells on sand, likely because the crag is the seat of House Westerling, which sits along the coast of the Sunset Sea in the Westerlands. Some of the fan art even depicts Jeyne wearing jewelry made from seashells. Upon first meeting Jeyne, Catelyn Stark describes Jeyne's appearance as, "She was pretty, undeniably with her chestnut curls and heart-shaped face and that shy smile, slender but with good hips." But Jaime has a different opinion, describing Jeyne in A Feast for Crows as a willowy girl, no more than 15 or 16, more awkward than graceful. She had narrow hips, breasts the size of apples, a mop of chestnut curls, and the soft brown eyes of a doe. Pretty enough for a child, and certainly not a beauty to lose a kingdom for. In A Storm of Swords, Robb Stark, King of the North, sleeps with Jeyne, and to protect her honor, he marries her the next day, despite agreeing to wed a daughter of Lord Walder Frey. This leads directly to the breakup of Robb's alliance with Lord Walder and the eventual Red Wedding. Robb tells his mother Catelyn of his bride, "Jeyne is bright as well as beautiful, and kind as well. She has a gentle heart." I haven't seen any kind of illustration for it, but after Robb's murder at the Red Wedding, Jeyne's mother Sybil tells Sir Jaime, in A Feast for Crows, "She would not give up the little crown the rebel gave her, and when I tried to take it from her, the willful child fought me." Jeyne responds with, "It was mine. You had no right. Robb had it made for me. I loved him." Euron Greyjoy. Euron Greyjoy, known in A Game of Thrones as Crow's Eye, and Euron Crow's Eye in A Feast for Crows, is a member of House Greyjoy and is the eldest of Lord Balon Greyjoy's younger brothers. In the show, Euron Greyjoy is played by actor Pilo Asbæk. Euron is described as pale and handsome with black hair and a dark beard. He wears a patch over his left eye. According to his nephew Theon Greyjoy, the patch conceals a black eye shining with malice. His right eye, meanwhile, is as blue as summer sky and is regarded as his smiling eye. In addition, his lips are pale blue due to his propensity to drink shade of the evening. Like Tyrion Lannister, Euron has a personal coat of arms, which is a red eye with a black pupil beneath a black iron crown supported by 2 crows. In A Feast for Crows, Euron has Lord Baelor Blacktide killed when the man refuses to accept him as king, taking his sable cloak as a trophy. In The Winds of Winter, prior to sailing against the Redwind Fleet and the ships of House Hightower, Euron's brother Aeron Greyjoy sees him clad in Valyrian steel armor, likely looted while pillaging the ruins of a Dragonlord family nobler. According to Game of Thrones Wiki, while Valyrian steel swords are rare in Westeros, Valyrian steel armors are even rarer. Euron Greyjoy is the only known person in Westeros who possesses such armor. Theon Reek. Theon Greyjoy is a member of House Greyjoy and is the sole surviving son and heir apparent of Balon Greyjoy, Lord of the Iron Islands. Theon is described in A Game of Thrones as a lean, dark, handsome youth with black hair and a lean, dark face. But in A Dance with Dragons after his capture, Theon is tortured repeatedly by Ramsay Snow, who has since been legitimized by King Tommen as Ramsay Bolton. In the show, Theon Reek is portrayed by actor Alfie Allen. While they dirty him up and dress him in rags, he is much worse off in the books. After suffering the repeated tortures by Ramsay and the men-at-arms of House Bolton, Theon is forced to take on the guise of Reek, the name of Ramsay's late serving man. He's forbidden from bathing and is caked from head to toe in filth and excrement. Theon is mentally and physically broken by Ramsay and lives in great fear of him. Due to the torture endured at Ramsay's hands, Theon looks like he has aged 40 years. Besides missing teeth, many more are loose so he cannot eat without suffering in agony. He's lost 3 stone in weight, or 42 pounds. His skin has turned pasty and his hair is white and brittle. As a reward for his obedience, though, a rag-clad Theon is allowed to sleep amongst Ramsay's dogs. Theon can no longer use a bow due to the loss of 3 fingers. He has difficulty riding, and he hobbles like an old man due to the loss of several toes. With Ramsay's father, Lord Roose Bolton, returning to the north, Ramsay has Theon washed and properly clothed. And at Ramsay's wedding to Arya, actually Jeyne Poole in disguise, Theon gives her away in the Godswood of Winterfell. Tyrell brothers. Both Garland and Willas Tyrell were cut from the show, although they appeared in the House Tyrell family tree issued by HBO. Some aspects of both characters might have been rolled into Loras Tyrell, portrayed in the show by actor Finn Jones. We have included them in this video because they were excluded in the previous video, Game of Thrones book characters not in the show. Willas Tyrell is a member of House Tyrell and the eldest son of Lord Mace Tyrell and Lady Alyri Hightower. He is the heir to Highgarden. In A Feast for Crows, Willas is described as crippled with a bad leg due to an accident he suffered during a tournament where he competed against Prince Oberyn Martell. But Willas bore Oberyn no personal ill will. Willas is also intelligent, studious, educated, and kind, and is renowned for breeding the finest hawks, hounds, and horses in the Seven Kingdoms. He sometimes hawks with an eagle. Willas is also described as mild and courtly, fond of reading books and looking at the stars. Olenna Tyrell tells Sansa Stark in an attempt to arrange a secret match, "We were speaking of my grandson Willas. He is a bit old for you to be sure, but a dear boy for all that. Not the least bit oafish, and heir to Highgarden besides." Peter Baelish tells Sansa Stark in A Storm of Swords, "Gentle, pious, good-hearted Willas Tyrell." But he goes on to say, "Be grateful you were spared, he would have bored you spitless." Sir Garland Tyrell, known as Garland the Gallant, is a knight of House Tyrell and the second son of Lord Mace Tyrell and Lady Alyri Hightower. His personal coat of arms is 2 golden roses on green to denote his status as second son. In concept and fan art, the 2 roses are often depicted on Garland's green surcoat. As written in A Clash of Kings, Garland is similar in appearance to his younger brother, Sir Loras Tyrell, but he is taller, more broadly built, and has a beard. Garland is 5 years older and not as handsome as Loras. Garland is also an exceptionally skilled swordsman, preferring to train against 3 or 4 swordsmen so as to better prepare himself for actual battle, but his lack of interest in gaining glory makes him less famous than Loras. Garland is married to Lady Leonette of House Fossaway. During the Battle of Blackwater, and disguised as the ghost of King Renly, Garland rides wearing Renly's armor because the late king's armor fit Garland better than it fit Loras. But in the show, it is Loras that wears Renly's armor. In Davos's Storm of Swords chapter, he is told, "King Renly's shade was seen as well, slaying right and left as he led the Lion Lord's van. It's said his green armor took a ghostly glow from wildfire, and his antlers ran with golden flames." The Sand Snakes. The Sand Snakes are the bastard daughters of Prince Oberyn Martell. The collective name references the Dornish bastard surname Sand and their father's nickname the Red Viper. As written in A Feast for Crows, Oberyn's 8 daughters have been born to 5 different mothers, and while they differ in appearance, they are all said to have their father's eyes in shape, if not color. In the show, the 3 Sand Snakes are portrayed by actors Keisha Castle-Hughes, Rosabelle Laurenti Sellers, and Jessica Henwick. Ariel Hota's thoughts of the Sand Snakes in A Dance with Dragons are: Obara, rusted nails and boiled leather, with her angry, close-set eyes and rat-brown hair. Nymeria, languid, elegant, olive-skinned, her long black braid bound up in red gold wire. Tyene, blue-eyed and blonde, a child woman with her soft hands and little giggles. In A Feast for Crows, Arianne Martell, a character that was cut from the HBO series, Her thoughts are that she left all her bastard cousins from prickly hot-tempered Obara to Loreza, the youngest, only 6 years old. But Tyene has always been the one she loved the most, though, the sweet sister that she never had. Tyene Sand, who in the show looks nothing like the book version, is the bastard daughter of Prince Oberyn Martell and Asepta. Tyene has deep blue eyes. In A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, Tyene is described as fair, with golden hair, dimples bloom in her cheeks, and she has a gentle, sweet voice. Despite her innocent and pious persona, Tyene is regarded as treacherous. Her soft, pale hands are as deadly as Obara's calloused ones. She shares her father Oberyn's knowledge of poisons, her chosen weapon. Tyene owns a clinging gown of pale blue samite with sleeves of Moorish lace. She also has a cream and green gown with long lace sleeves. In A Dance with Dragons, Tyene is to accompany her sister and, disguised as a Septa, gain the confidence of the High Sparrow. DORNE tells her the swords and the stars have been reformed and the new High Septon is not the puppet the others were. Try and get close to him. To which she responds, "Why not? White suits my coloring. I look so pure." Jorah Mormont. Sir Jorah Mormont is an exiled knight, the former head of House Mormont and Lord of Bear Island. He becomes one of the most trusted companions of Daenerys Targaryen. In the show, Jorah Mormont is portrayed by Scottish actor Ian Glenn. Jorah is described in A Storm of Swords as a large middle-aged man, swarthy and hairy. He is black-bearded and balding, but still strong and fit. According to the book A Game of Thrones, Jorah is shorter but more muscular than Sir Barristan Selmy, but Daenerys Targaryen considers him not particularly handsome. Jorah wears wool and leather, and his dark green tunic displaying the standing black bear of House Mormont from their coat of arms. He also owns horsehair leggings and a painted vest in the Dothraki style. Jorah is said to armor himself in mail, as well as gauntlets, greaves, and a flat-top great helm of dark gray steel. He wields a long sword and a dagger. Missandei. Missandei is an Athai scribe in service to Krasnus Mome Naklas, one of the good masters of Astapor and later herald and companion of Daenerys Targaryen. In the show, Missandei of Noth is portrayed by actor Natalie Emmanuel. Missandei is described in A Storm of Swords and A Dance with Dragons as having a round, flat face, dusky skin, and eyes like molten gold. But the biggest departure from the books is that Missandei is aged up considerably in the show because she is only 10 years old when we first meet her. In Dany's chapter in A Storm of Swords, she thinks, "The little scribe with the big golden eyes was wise beyond her years. She is brave as well. She had to be to survive the life she's lived." While there's no description of Missandei's clothing, I can imagine that Dany might dress her in Athai silks. According to the World Book, before the slaver raids intensified significantly after the Doom of Valyria, Noth, known to the ancients as the Isle of Butterflies, used to be a major exporter of shimmering silks from silkworm caterpillars, and they could be found in markets throughout the Seven Kingdoms and the Free Cities. However, export trade has largely collapsed in the past 400 years and are less and less frequently seen in the world's major cities. Daario Naharis. Daario Naharis is a Tayoshi captain of the sellsword company the Stormcrows, a mercenary company found in the Free Cities. He's also the lover of Daenerys Targaryen. In the show, Daario Naharis is played by actors Ed Skrein in Season 3 and by Mikhail Hausman in Seasons 4 to 6. Daario is described in the books A Storm of Swords and A Dance with Dragons as lithe and smooth-skinned with bright deep blue eyes which can appear almost purple. Daario's fingers are also enameled blue to match his hair, and his mustache is painted gold. He is described as having a large, curving nose with a golden tooth which gleams in his mouth. The greatest difference, however, between the books versus the show is that in the books, Daario dyes his hair and trident beard divided into 3 pointed parts, either blue or deep purple. Jorah Mormont says to Daenerys in A Storm of Swords that, "I have seen how false men are. Very few are worthy of trust, and Daario Naharis is not one of them. Even his beard wears false colors." Daario also dresses in loud colors and finery. One yellow outfit includes a doublet with brass medallions in the shape of dandelions and with a foam of butter-colored Moorish lace, which I think George is indicating is a lightweight and airy type of lace. According to the World Book, Moorish lace and tapestries are said to be worth their weight in gold and spice. Daario also wears suede gloves, high leather boots with ornamental goldwork, and a belt with gilded rings. Another outfit consists of striped pantaloons, high boots of purple leather, a white silk shirt, and a vest of golden rings. Daario also possesses a heavy black cloak. He dons a Dothraki arok on his left hip and a Moorish stiletto on his right hip. A stiletto is a kind of knife or dagger with a long slender blade and a needle-like point. Their golden hilts are a matched pair of naked women who appear wanton. Daenerys Targaryen. She really needs no introduction, but Princess Daenerys Targaryen, also known as Daenerys Stormborn, is one of the last confirmed members of House Targaryen, along with her older brother Viserys. In the show, Daenerys is portrayed by actor Emilia Clarke. While I don't think that anyone will argue against the casting of Emilia Clarke, the character was aged up considerably since Dany is a young woman in her early teens. And while they got the skin tone and hair right, she is supposed to have violet eyes. In another video on my channel about the Game of Thrones costumes you wish were in the show, I got into some details about the Tokar and her dragon crown, so if you want to check that out, I will leave a link in the description below. But for now, I am going to talk about a few other costumes that were slightly different or completely omitted in the show. Clothing-wise, this isn't too much of a departure from the show, but in the book Game of Thrones, Daenerys sometimes dresses in Dothraki garb that includes a painted vest, riding leathers while going about barefoot with her hair oiled and her skin sun-browned. From Storm of Swords and Clash of Kings, other Dothraki include silk or horsehair pants, woven grass sandals, a medallion belt, and her painted vest. Dany also often wears silver bells in her braided hair per Dothraki custom, one for each of her victories. One major change from the show is when Dany emerges from Drogo's funeral pyre with her dragon eggs, her hair is scorched off her head along with all of her clothes. In A Clash of Kings, Zero Zoan Daxus warns her that the enthroned will never listen to a Dothraki, so she takes care to go before them in a flowing green Samite Carthene gown. As per Carthene fashion, women wear gowns which leave one breast exposed. And in A Storm of Swords, Daenerys wears a Carthene gown and a deep violet silk when she goes to make an offer to the good masters of Astapor for all 8,600 unsullied. The color is said to bring out the color of her eyes. In A Game of Thrones, Khal Drogo and his blood riders hunt for what I think is called a Harakar, which is a breed of white lion native to the Dothraki Sea, and he tells Daenerys, "I shall make you a cloak of its skin, moon of my life." In A Clash of Kings, she takes to wearing the white fur pelt. In A Storm of Swords, it remains a favorite attire of Daenerys, its musty smell reminding her of her dead husband. Thank you to my co-producers Tatiana and Vanessa for working so hard over the course of this 6-part series, and also to all of the talented artists that helped make this video possible. Also, thank you to my patrons on Patreon. And if you missed any of the videos in this series, I will leave all of the links in the description below. I'll have more Game of Thrones videos coming out in the new year. As always, thank you so much for spending time with me. I'll see you in the next video.